Just want to welcome everyone to tonight's Arvin Lamont CSC meeting. It is 5 p.m. and we are now live on YouTube and we are recording. So I think we can officially get started with tonight's meeting. Before we go into... Oh, had to mute the live stream. Okay, before we go into the meeting, we will take a few moments to set up our interpretation. And so I will pass it to Diana from Linguística to share those instructions tonight.
Thank you, Liz. Buenas tardes a todos y bienvenidos a la reunión del día de hoy. Tenemos el servicio de interpretación para aquellas personas que lo requieran. La función ya está activada, así que si están conectándose desde su computadora, en la parte de abajo del menú de Zoom hay un icono que parece un mundo que dice interpretación. Pueden seleccionar ese icono y seleccionamos el idioma español y luego la opción que dice silenciar el audio original, si es que no quieren escuchar dos voces a la vez. Y si se están conectando desde una tableta o desde su dispositivo móvil, tienen que tocar su pantalla y buscar la opción de los tres puntos que dice más o more. Seleccionamos nuevamente interpretación de idiomas o language interpretation. Seleccionamos el idioma español y al final le damos a la opción que dice finalizado, terminado o listo. Si tienen dificultad para unirse a la interpretación, nos hacen saber por el chat, por favor, para poder ayudarles. Ahora voy a dar las mismas indicaciones, pero en inglés. Hello, everyone. Today we have interpretation available for those who need it. If you're joining from a computer, at the bottom of the Zoom menu, you will see a word-like icon that says interpretation. You can select that, and then you can select English. And if you're joining from a tablet or your phone, you have to tap your screen, select the three dots, then language interpretation, and again, you will select English, and at the end, the option that says finish or done. And if you have any issues joining the interpretation channel, please let us know in the chat so we can help you. Thank you. Gracias.
This is Liz. Thank you, Diana, for sharing those instructions. And give me one moment as I finish setting up our interpretation. Okay, so you all should have the option to select your interpretation channel, but do let us know in the chat if you're having any issues with that. We'll continue to move through our housekeeping slides. On this slide, you see some of our naming conventions. And as we say at the top of each meeting, this is very helpful and important for our attendance tracking and our stipend distribution process. So for everyone who is joining tonight, if you are a CSC member, we ask that you put the letters CSC in your Zoom name. And if you are a resident in the stipend program, we ask that you put the letter R. For everyone else joining tonight's meeting, we also ask that you put your organization name if you are here representing an organization. If you are here as a member of the public, we ask that you put the letter P in front of your name, and this will help us call on you during our designated public comment. On this slide, we have our virtual meeting etiquette. We ask folks to stay muted unless you are speaking, and if you are calling in on the phone, you can mute and unmute by pressing *6. We also ask for folks to raise your Zoom hand if you have a question or comment throughout tonight's meeting. And again, if you are calling in on the phone, you can raise or unraise your hand by pressing *9. And then we have a reminder here for residents in the stipend program to stay on for at least 75% of tonight's meeting, which is around 90 minutes to be eligible for the stipend. On this slide, we have our group agreements for productive discussion and respectful dialogue. Everyone here has agreed to help achieve the meeting goals by focusing on solutions, opportunities, and productive dialogue. We ask that you help us let everyone have a chance to participate by stepping up if you are on the quiet side, and then stepping back if you tend to talk more. We also ask for folks to be kind, civil, and respectful, knowing it's okay to disagree as long as we do so with respect and empathy. We also ask for folks to help us stay on point and on time by keeping your comments brief. This will allow everyone a chance to participate and share their perspective when our time is limited. Next, we all agree to attack the problem and not the person, honoring every person's humanity and dignity. And finally, we all agree to seek common ground. Building consensus and finding shared values will help us all achieve the best results. On this slide, you are seeing the agenda for tonight. We will start out with our usual welcome and introductions, and then we will have our action items tracker review. Then we will move on to our air monitoring update. And then we'll spend most of our time tonight on the SERP incentives budget discussion, where, as you see, we will try to build some consensus around a decision. Then we will have our usual standing updates before we wrap up and have our final public comment. And so I will stop sharing my screen and officially want to welcome you all again to tonight's Arvin Lamont CSC. This is your 50th CSC meeting, so just want to congratulate everyone and just appreciate your continued engagement in this space. My name is Liz, and I am one of your facilitators, joined here by Amy and Laura. And I'm happy to move us on to our opening remarks by first welcoming our two co-leads, Bianca and Cesar. I'm going to take a moment to see if either of you would like to unmute and share any opening remarks at this time.
Welcome everybody. I know it's very important to us to go back in all the SERP incentives and see where we could we could work as the community together and reach consensus. And I'm very impressed that the Air District has been doing a lot of the side work. We've been moving all along from the SERP in the SERP tracker and I'm very happy to give new information. There's new updated information to the community. So welcome everybody, and um, we are moving along with the SERP.
Thank you so much, Bianca. And I'll take a pause here to see if Cesar, if you are in the meeting, if you would like to share any opening remarks. I'm not sure if he has logged in yet, so we might come back to him. And at this time, I'm happy to welcome Stephanie from the Air District to share opening remarks as well.
Thank you, Liz. Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Stephanie Ng. I am the Director of Community Strategies and Resources. I'm super happy to be here tonight. And I want to thank again, really Bianca and Cesar for doing such an amazing job, being co-leads of this group. I really appreciate their support and just kind of how they've helped craft this meeting. And I just want to thank all of you for being really engaged in this process, because tonight's meeting really is a culmination of all the different topics you all have wanted to discuss. We heard in the agenda setting that folks, now that we're getting into the summertime, are interested in discussing and hearing about an air monitoring update, and how pollution might be, how things in the air might be changing. And then also, like Bianca mentioned, just getting a really high level look at how we're doing in terms of SERP implementation. So really excited for both of those topics, and just thank everyone for being here tonight.
Yes, this is Liz. Thank you, Stephanie, and definitely echo what was shared by both you and Bianca. We have a very packed agenda with two very important items tonight, so I am happy to move us along to our next item, which is our action item tracker review. As most of you know, we take the time to do this at every meeting. As a part of this process, we maintain this action item tracker as a way to keep the CSC informed and engaged on any progress that is being made in implementing your SERP. And so as Nancy will review your action item tracker, please keep note of any questions that you might have for clarification, and we'll have some time to get those answered. And as always, if there is something that we can't answer tonight, we will take note of that and come back to it at a future meeting. And so with that, I'm happy to pass it to Nancy to review the action items.
Thank you, Liz. This is Nancy. So happy to be here with you all. And I did go ahead and talk to many people here. And I just wanted to let you all know that I appreciate all the time that, we've spent just talking together and just getting to difficult conversations sometimes. And so, please utilize the space to ask questions. And sometimes these conversations won't be easy, but, as long as we tackle the problem and not the person, we can continue these efforts. And so I will go ahead and share my screen. All right, so we are going to begin with the action items from last month. And so please let me know if you have any questions or would like further information about this. All right, so action item 49.1 is the Air District will provide CSC members with more info on truck emissions and where to report these violations. And so if you remember, we did have CARB join us at the previous CSC meeting, and so they had a lot of great information. One of the outcomes that came out of this is to file a complaint with CARB, including complaints about trucks or other diesel equipment. There is a link that is live here, which you can click, and it takes you directly to the CARB website where you can file a complaint. Action item number 2. This has to do with an update on regulations for the use of older hot rods. And so CARB is still looking into this request, and we will circle back once we have more information. Additionally, CARB will also be providing us with information once they obtain it for landfill emissions. And lastly, we do have here action item 49.5. CARB will follow up on the question about whether Arvin and Lamont residents will get priority when signing up for e-bike vouchers. And so this question was actually answered during the presentation that CARB had. And so just a little recap, the California Air Resources Board is prioritizing individuals with income at or below 225% of the federal poverty level, as well as those residing in disadvantaged or low-income communities, such as Arvin and Lamont. So to answer this question, yes, all of Arvin and Lamont should be covered to receive these e-bike vouchers. And then so the last action item comes out of the ongoing. And so CARB will provide short updates on any regulation changes when available. And of course, CARB will continue to provide updates to the CSC as information becomes available. And so that concludes the action items from the previous months. We can go ahead and just open the floor up for questions or any comments that you all have.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know this is Michelle from CARB, and we have several action items here. Thank you for reviewing the ones we do have, and I just want to let you know I am also placing some specific answers within the chat. So if you want to take a look there, hopefully there's more information for you there. And I will also be sending this stuff over to the air district so that they can send it out to you all.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other questions that the committee has?
This is Liz. I'm not seeing any hands raised, and I don't see anything in the chat. So if there are no questions from the CSC, I think we can transition and wrap up our action item tracker review. Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, Michelle, for noting the comments that you left in the chat. And for those who might not be able to read the chat right at this moment, do know that the Air District will be including these in the updates that they send via email after tonight's meeting. Okay, and so at this time, I'm happy to keep moving us along in our agenda. And we will now be discussing Arvin Lamont's quarterly air monitoring update. So the Air District, as many of you know, continuously monitors the air quality from multiple sites within the Arvin Lamont boundary. And today the Air District is going to provide an informational update on the data collection thus far, including some analysis and the status of your air quality, as mentioned earlier, really to inform you all of what is going on in your community in terms of your air quality. And so as the Air District shares some of these key takeaways from the monitoring of these previous months, we do kindly ask for CSC members to hold your questions and comments until the end of the presentation, when we will have time for some discussion. So if you do have a question throughout, we do ask that you put it in the chat or write it down so you don't forget, but we will be sure to come to you at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm happy to pass it off to Chai, who is going to start off the presentation.
All right, thank you, Liz. Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all. My name is Chai Tao. I'm the program manager of air monitoring here at the Air District. And I work with Alejandro, so I'm going to kick off just a quick introduction and some preliminary information on the update, and then Alejandro will pick up on the rest after that. So, okay, we got it up. All right, so this is going to cover the first quarter of 2025. The next one. So we'll go over the status of the air monitoring plan and then review the air monitoring data, which Alejandro will be providing. And then we'll finish it up with questions and comments. All right, so this is your community air monitoring plan, and the implementation status is pretty much all of the locations except two that are left at this point. One is Alicante Elementary, and in that one, it's a matter of the locations to placement for that one. The other one that we're having a little bit more difficulty is the DeGiorgio and Comanche location. Just so if any of you have any suggestions or contacts of locations nearby in that area, we would really appreciate that. Okay, next. And so this is just a recap of the type of equipment that we have at these air monitoring stations. At the left here, you see a single PM 2.5 monitor. And then the middle one is a compact air monitoring system that has a variety of pollutants that it monitors. And then the one on the right-hand side here is the air monitoring trailer that has just a comprehensive set of equipment in there to monitor a multitude of air pollutants. Next, please. And here we have the air monitoring van. And so this is designed so that we can go to any location, deploy very quickly if you have any any location that you have any concern with, we can get the van operating over there. The one thing that we do need is a safe place and some place with access to power, because although the van itself is it has its own power, it only lasts maybe 6 or 7 or 8 hours, depending on how hot it gets. And so usually when we go monitor on site, we'd like to stay a little bit longer. And so ideally, if there's any location concern and we can find a place that's safe and has good power, that's where we would use this van. Next, please. And so just again, just a really quick recap, and we're continuing to conduct localized air monitoring in the community. Still looking for an acceptable location for a PM 2.5 monitor near DeGiorgio and Comanche. Continue to work with Lamont School District at El Conte on electrical infrastructure. And then, of course, the van is available to monitor pollutes in areas of interest. And we are also conducting lab analysis of air samples for PM 2.5 and VOC. And that is at the Arvin CST. And from here on, I'm going to pass it on to Alejandro, who is the air quality technician instrument technician that is in charge of looking over the air monitoring, all the air monitors at Arvin Lamont.
Awesome. Thanks, Chai. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Alejandro. I'm the specialist in charge of the maintenance at the Arvin Lamont community for the air monitors. I'm going to be going over the next few slides. All right, so for this air monitoring update, we had slightly higher PM 2.5 levels than previous year's quarters. Cold, dry, and stagnant conditions in January mainly contributed to these elevated PM 2.5 levels. And of course, the air monitoring data is available online at your community portal. Next slide, please. So to kick things off, I'd kind of like to explain what causes PM 2.5 levels to be higher in the winter. So during the winter time, inversion layers are more frequent. And it's like, what are inversion layers? So let me try to explain. So typically, air temperature goes down as elevation goes up. The higher you go, the colder it usually is. However, a temperature inversion layer is the opposite. It's when the air above has a higher temperature than the air below. The warm air above the colder air acts as sort of a lid, and that's what's called an inversion layer. So this inversion layer prevents air and pollution from lifting away from the ground. So pollution becomes trapped and it builds up, causing higher PM 2.5 concentrations at the ground level where people and monitors are at. Inversion layers are more frequent and prominent during the winter time. That's why we typically get higher PM 2.5 levels during winter times. Next slide, please. So now to the data side of things. This is a PM 2.5 quarterly average comparison. We compared quarter one, so January through March of this year with previous year's quarter one. On the left-hand side, on the y-axis, are the PM 2.5 concentrations. On the x-axis are the monitoring sites. The bars are color-coded, representing this year and past year's quarter one as far back as 2023. As you can see, this year's quarter one, depicted in orange, was slightly higher than previous year's quarters all across each community. This slight increase was due to cold, stagnant, foggy weather that caused PM 2.5 to linger in the entire Central Valley. We saw similar results in a nearby regulatory monitor located in Bakersfield, as shown by the striped orange bar on the right-hand side. And just to note that the health-based annual standard, the dashed line you see within the graph of 9 micrograms, is an annual standard, not quarterly. It's there to show what we're aiming for the entire year. Even during the winter quarter, it was below at several sites. In the winter months, we generally see the highest PM values. Next slide, please. So this graph shows monthly PM 2.5 averages for quarter one. As you can see, January being the coldest month, along with stagnation, low wind movement, it shows higher PM2.5 values than both February and March. Once the weather cleared out and we didn't have the fog forming in the valley, all of the sites within the community cleared up significantly. Next slide. So this chart shows daily PM2.5 average values, so daily. On the left-hand side is the PM2.5 concentration. On the bottom of the graph are the dates for this data. Remember, this is just quarter one. Each data point here represents a daily PM2.5 average. For comparison, we've also included a gray shadow area showing last year's, so 2024, quarter one, daily PM2.5 maximum values. The multicolored background in the graph represents the different RAAN levels or RAN levels. That's real-time air advisory network levels to help show the different air quality levels. On the bottom is a legend that indicates what each color represents. For example, green is good, yellow is moderate, and so forth. A majority of days we saw good and moderate levels for quarter one. The largest peaks you see here are within January and are due to the cold, dry, and stagnant weather conditions. Also, at the 35 microgram level is the 24-hour federal standard. PM values for quarter one remained below the 24-hour federal standard within the community. Next slide. So here are some real-life pictures. We presented this slide in the past just to highlight what occurs in the valley when we have stagnant weather conditions. On the left, we have an image from NASA showing the widespread fog from December of last year that continued throughout January. And on the top right is a picture of the inversion layer showing a blue sky above brown haze. So these are just some examples. Next slide. Another pollutant we wanted to talk about was ozone. So why is ozone important? It's important because prolonged exposure to elevated levels of ground level ozone, it can cause long-term health issues such as reduced lung function, lung inflammation, and increased susceptibility to respiratory infections. That's why it's important. Ozone is the primary pollutant during the summer. It's formed when sunlight and heat, they react with nitrogen oxide gases and volatile organic compounds. And these gases and compounds are primarily produced by cars, trucks, trains, and other petroleum-based transportation. The more smog and heat, the more ozone you will have. Next slide. So now with the understanding of PM2.5 and ozone, we'll go over the seasonal changes between the two as depicted on this slide. The blue graph above shows PM2.5 levels. The orange graph below shows ozone levels. These are actual valid data points collected for the Arvin Lamont community from January through December of 2024, so throughout the whole entirety of last year. The months are shown below the orange graph. So within the blue graph, there are high PM2.5 values in the winter months of January through March, and then also November through December. Note there is a big old peak around, well, it's July 4th, and it's because of the fireworks for the blue graph. And then where was I? Sorry. So within the blue graph, there was a July 4th peak due to fireworks, and the orange graph shows high ozone levels between May and October during the hottest months of the year. So generally, PM2.5 is higher in the winter, and ozone is higher in the summer. Next slide, please. So lastly, on this graph, we wanted to highlight how each pollutant drives the AQI values. This graph shows the AQI values recorded for Arvin Lamont for last year, in 2024. And just for those that don't know, AQI is Air Quality Index, and it serves as a way to communicate how clean or polluted the air is. Behind the graph is a multicolored scale depicting the different air quality levels. AQI is a tool that takes all of the pollutants we measure, and each pollutant measured is assigned an AQI value. The highest AQI value among the pollutants measured is used as the overall AQI for the day. So between January and mid-February, AQI was driven by high PM 2.5 values in the winter months. March through mid-September, once it got warmer, AQI was driven by high ozone values. And then again in October through December, AQI was driven by high PM 2.5 values in the colder months. Depending on the season, different pollutants are more prominent. And I believe that's actually the last slide I have. This concludes my part of the presentation.
Con esto
I'll give
termino
the
con mi parte
floor
de la
to,
presentación, así
I
que
believe,
le
Danny.
doy la palabra
Thank
a,
you,
me parece
Alejandro.
que sigue
Appreciate it.
Dani.
Thank you.
Sí,
Yeah,
gracias.
so we'll stay on this slide. I want to explain a little more
Quiero explicar un
as
poco más
we
en esta
kind of transition
diapositiva.
into the new season with the warmer days. With all this data that our AQA and compliance departments collect, we want to make sure that we are publicizing this and sharing it with the public accordingly. And so with this information, the district developed something that we refer to as ROAR guidelines, which basically determined the level of activity that we want to make sure that the public is informed as to how they should be conducting themselves outdoors based on those health quality recommendations. And so, as we know, air quality does worsen as the summer temperatures increase. So does ozone levels increase as well. So obviously this can pose health risk, especially for those children or older adults and individuals with respiratory conditions. So it's important to monitor air quality during this time and adjust or limit activities when pollution levels are too high, ensuring that public health is protected. Next slide. So as we referred back to those guidelines, we want to make sure that schools, the athletic programs, the event organizers really are just protecting people, the general well-being, especially those that's sensitive to air pollution. So with our messaging, always we want to make sure that the public is well informed and educated based on the data that we're collecting and ensuring that the public is receiving. And so with that, we are constantly sharing updates with across our social media platforms. That includes Instagram, X, Facebook, and Nextdoor as well. As you can see here, just a constant reminder for those the public that burning trash is illegal and the corresponding health impacts that could have on your neighbors and your community, or something a little more updated with the possible grass fires that are occurring in your communities as of yesterday. And so this is something that we're seeing more and more constantly occurring as the temperatures are increasing. And so we at the district want to make sure that we are reaching you at a timely manner to inform you of these impacts that you may be seeing and experiencing. Next slide. Obviously, if you have someone in your community or someone nearby that is producing some sort of illegal smoke or impacts in your community, we always encourage the public to file complaints. We always remind you that you have this ability to do so 24/7 year round. And how you do that is simply by downloading our app and filing a complaint. This can be completely anonymous, ensuring that your information is protected while maintaining public health as of the utmost importance. So we want to encourage all of you that if you are experiencing some sort of impacts in your community, to please report it. We encourage you.
This is Liz. I'm not sure. Did Danny freeze for others? Okay,
Yes.
it looks
This
okay.
is Stephanie. I actually think Danny was so close to finishing, so this is perfect timing. I can help wrap us up in that. Oh, Danny, are you back?
Sorry, it looks like
Oh, oh no. This is Stephanie. I think we lost Danny, so I'm gonna wrap us up really quickly and then I actually think we're pretty much to the end. Danny was just finalizing and just letting everyone know that of course I know we talk about it almost every single meeting. It's really important that you all are the eyes in the community. So as you all are seeing concerns, please be sure to report them to us so that we can follow up and ensure that if there are issues that we are out there talking to those parties, issuing violations if we need to. And if you're interested, like Danny said, you can submit these types of air quality complaints anonymously. But if you'd like to know about and hear about kind of what happened, you can leave us your information and our inspectors will reach back out to you. And I think that wraps up our presentation. So I'll pass it back to you, Liz.
Thank you. This is Liz. Really appreciate all of the different folks from the Air District who contributed to this presentation, and thank you, Steph, for jumping in at the end. I know a lot of information was just shared, and now we have time to open it up for questions, comments, discussion. So please, if you have anything that you would like to share, raise your hand or put it in the chat and we will call on you. And I do see one hand up from Mario. Go ahead.
Hi, how you guys doing? Yeah, my question is that I was noticing that we've been having more spikes on the map on wintertime, but not on summertime. But there are more burning in the summertime and not too many burning in the wintertime. I was just asking to see if I'm trying to understand that why does it spike up in the winter but not the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of variables to it, but one of the main contributing factor, as we've identified in these slides, is that it's during the wintertime, the airflow has a tendency to be a lot more stagnant. And so whatever, whenever there's a fire or anything like that, it tends to just get exacerbated a lot more since it doesn't have an opportunity to.
But it don't not show in the hot time like it's supposed to. But I feel that it's supposed to spike up more on the the heat, not on the winter. But it looks like it's spiking up more in the winter than the summer.
Yeah, so during the winter time, as Alejandro had explained, there's that inversion layer. So usually usually the hot air always goes up, right? When you have hot air flows up because it goes up to the cooler area. So because it flows up, it creates that current to kind of push and really just mix the air up. And that happens more often in the summertime, whereas in the wintertime, that's why we always come back to wintertime. We say, well, one of the big issues is that it's stagnation, where instead of having the hot air move up, you have hot air at the top and cold air at the bottom. And so you're not getting a lot of air movement. And so it doesn't spread that smoke or that pollution whenever there's any type of burning.
Yeah, because I started noticing a lot right here in Lamont that there's some fields out there, you can see the haze of blue. And I just do not understand how could you see a haze of blue, because that's to me, I see it like gas. But the thing is that there's certain locations that it changed. It looked like a fog or something.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm trying to get a good understanding on this part right here, because how you're talking about different pollution, and all that is just, I'm trying to get at the spot where I could understand what's really creating the problem. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't see that we ever found a solution how to stop this. I want to find a solution to stop this, that we could get better quality air.
Yeah, and it is a pretty complex issue, but there are I can't remember if we have it in slides in here or not, but like for example, like PM2.5 itself, there's direct emissions you see, like when you're burning a fire or you see the exhaust coming out from an engine.
Because we what I've been noticing that even the diesel trucks are having a lot of problems with the new solution they put in there, and it creates a different smell. I mean, you could drive next to them and you could smell it.
Yeah.
And I feel that we have to start like going back to see the true problem, like that we could fix it.
Yeah, it's been identified for a lot of the sources, like you had mentioned, like from even diesel trucks. And then there's sources, whether if it's burning of various types of agricultural materials or wood or anything like that, all the
Yeah.
way to, there's various sources that it reacts in the atmosphere and creates all those particulates.
Yeah, it creates this type of problem because
Yeah.
I mean, this pollution don't supposed to stay here, it's supposed to go out.
Although
That-
if you look at it historically, though, I mean, there's substantial improvements. If we look at it historically, let's say from 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, we see those trends on it, that it's cleaned up significantly, both on paper and on the actual results that we see at the air monitors. So there's been significant improvements, and
Okay.
there's been a lot of resources spent on it. From residents and
I
everybody.
was gonna ask you, what could we do to better this type of problem that we have? I mean, it's getting fixed, but just to make it better, what could we do to make it better?
Yeah, so as far as better, I think that's something that district has been pushing a lot as far as outreach and communications. And I don't know if some of the folks here can talk a little bit more on that, but it's definitely something that we continue to push. And I think one thing to kind of keep in mind as we're looking at all of this is that it's pretty clean. I mean, you see these numbers here and these lines here. It
Yes.
is actually pretty clean, but it doesn't mean that that the mission is accomplished at this point. I mean, we're getting very close to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely. I don't know, Stephanie, if you guys want to.
Yeah, I understand the graphic on it and all that. I understand that. But what I'm trying to say is that I see like a spike on it on something like you're saying winter and summer. And the way I seen it, it just didn't I couldn't fall to really see the true picture. And the only thing I'm asking is what is the best thing that we could do to make it better? To find a better solution to make it, like that we don't have this type of problem.
This is Stephanie. If I could, I see Amy, you're muting. If I could quickly respond, and I see Bianca's hand up, so I want to make sure we give time for her. And I appreciate, Mario, your question of just, I think, seeking out solutions, because I think that's exactly why our group is here meeting every single month, right? I appreciate Chaya's. I think, he is over the team that sees our community air monitoring network, but he also has worked at the district for a really long time and has a really long history and expertise, and totally agree that I know that we're just seeing a quarter here, but like Chai mentioned, overall, the trends that we're seeing kind of historically throughout the years, we're seeing a lot of cleaner air quality thanks to the commitments from lots of community members, lots of businesses. But like Chai mentioned, the work isn't done yet. And so just in terms of the questions you have, Mario, is just continuing to work with you all to implement these CERT measures in the community. I don't think that we can always point to just one thing. There's a lot of different things that we have to do together, like switching out fireplaces, like replacing trucks, like replacing vehicles, like replacing lawnmowers, a lot of things that we can all do collectively to be a part of that solution. And so definitely appreciate the solutions oriented thinking. And I hope that the update that we have later in the meeting that talks about kind of our CERP implementation and how that is going also will help answer questions about what we can be doing as a group and as a CSC to continue to improve air quality in the community.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mario.
Thank you, Mario. That was a great question, and it's a good reminder that this is very complicated, and that's why it takes so much time and so much work from everybody in this room to talk about all the different kinds of solutions that are going to have to be involved to address all of these different air quality concerns. So you're raising a very important issue. And I do see Bianca, your hand is up, so please go ahead.
Well, I want to give kudos to the Air District because I signed up for the RAN and I have the app on my phone, and I've noticed a tendency when there's spikes, community members do get alerts, and it's very crucial when you have children or a family that have respiratory problems so they can limit their time outside. But one of the questions, maybe I missed this piece or not, um, does it also include the PM 2.5 in the reporting when there's spikes? It would be nice to know at least. If not, if so, thank you. If not, is there something that the air district is going to do to provide that information when there's spikes on the PM 2.5?
Yeah, the AQI number there actually looks at both. And so that's why in the slide here, we say AQI driven by PM2.5, or more in the summertime, we say AQI is driven by ozone. So it takes the higher of the two values, and that's what drives that particular number. So wintertime, that means you're seeing it's PM2.5 when you get the higher AQI numbers. And then if it's the summertime, it's really when it's spiking, we're getting high values, it's because of ozone.
I also wanted to inform the CSCs that the Arvin district does have sign up. So when there's high elevations, they tried not to limit the outdoors for our children. So thank you that the Air District has done the outreach to the schools to prevent these type of exposures. So I've seen the difference between like the schools actually working with the students to limit their access outside when there's high spikes of ozone or PM 2.5.
This is Liz. Thank you, Bianca, for the question and adding that additional information. I'm just going to pause to see if there's any last questions before we move on to our next agenda item. Okay, I am not seeing anything, so I think we can close out our air monitoring update and say thank you again to the Air District team who put all of that information together for this group. And at this time, we will transition to our SERP incentives budget discussion. You're going to hear about a few different SERP measures, and then as mentioned earlier and as seen on the agenda, we will have time to discuss and potentially build consensus around moving some funds to the passenger vehicle replacement program. And at this time, I'm going to pass it to Stephanie, who is going to get us started with the presentation.
Thank you, Liz. This is Stephanie. And just to set up this conversation, again, I just want to thank the folks, and especially Bianca, who's been such a good advocate of this, and the folks that in the agenda setting call for helping us shape this item. And really the thought behind it is seeing kind of how we're at in SERP implementation, with the eye towards are there opportunities to maybe move some of these funds to make sure that, you know, the programs can continue going and supporting residents in the community? And so I'm going to present some high-level slides that discuss implementation progress. And then at the end of the slide, I'll actually pause, or we'll actually have Christine to give an update on paving. I don't want to forget that. And then also towards the end, we will have an opportunity to dig into one particular measure where we're seeing a lot of movement, and really happy to report that. And we'll discuss a little bit more about this again towards the end of the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. And again, we're going to do a review and just overall budget discussion. As a reminder, in your SERP, there's over $30 million allocated to our SERP measures. That's aiming to reduce 135 tons of PM 2.5 and 372 tons of NOx. As a reminder, 13 of those are incentive measures, so we have funding tied to those measures. But we still have a lot of work that we're doing outside of those incentive measures that includes things like enforcement, outreach, and land use and partnerships with other partners, like, for example, DPR. We as a district are definitely committed to working with you on, involving the CSC in the process of implementing these SERP incentive measures. So some of the things that we do kind of really throughout the whole year, every single month, I know we talk about this a lot, but every single month we update and post what we call our SERP tracker. That will give you the most up-to-date information of how SERP implementation is going across all of our different commitments. Every single month during these meetings, we also provide updates on how implementation is going, and kind of solicit input on opportunities for adjustment. And really what we're calling biannually, so twice a year, we want to do kind of a bigger budget discussion with you all, where we have, big high level understanding of where we're doing with all of our measures to kind of, again, adapt and tailor SERP implementation as we need to. And something that we do at the end of the year, and you all saw this last year and the year before, is we put together an annual report that kind of provides an opportunity to talk about all the successes and then also elevate any kind of challenges that we saw throughout the year. And this is something that we give to the community and then also to, for example, to CARB at the state and other stakeholders that are following along this process. So I'm going to break out all of our SERP measures into different categories. The first category that we're going to look at here are measures that are kind of related to community and schools. And so what you're seeing here is we have all of our SERP measures, and those green bars will show you the progress that we've made through the funding. The dark green bar will indicate when the funding has been spent, and then the light green bar indicates the funding that we have remaining. So a couple measures that you'll see here is that we are making progress on our commercial lawn and garden measure. So this is not the one for residents, but this is more the ones for businesses. So we are continuing to do outreach to schools, to different businesses that can take advantage of this to get them to apply to the program. Two measures that I know are really important that we've been working on over the past few months, specifically vegetative barriers, but also our urban greening measure. Those are things that we are continuing to work with you all in a subcommittee. We have our school bus replacement measure. A couple of months ago, we gave an update that we have several bus applications through a school district in Lamont that we are still working with the school to process those applications. And then we also have in the SERP around 12 million allocated to road improvement, sidewalk, and bike paths. And I know that the committee has done a lot of really good and hard work to make two different sets of projects happen with Kern County and the city of Arvin. And at this time, I'm actually going to pause and pass over to Christine and Sam because I know at the agenda setting, there were a couple folks that were interested in hearing how the progress was going with the city of Arvin. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass over to Christine and Sam.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good to see you again. So some of you may have seen some of the folks out on the street doing things like surveying and measuring. We're very active in moving this AB 617 group of projects forward. But since I'm not an engineer, I thought it would be great to bring in Sam and ask him to give you any specific comments or questions that you might have so that he's here for you to give you an update. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sam, our city engineer. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Currently with the project, as Christine mentioned, you probably have seen the surveyors. They've been out on Comanche for several weeks now. They've moved over to A Street. They've been working on that one, I think, for about a week. We're hoping to have the survey work there done by Tuesday, and then they'll move over to Derby Street. And so currently what we've been focusing on is getting all of our right of way, all of our research and the preliminary kind of design stuff figured out. I met out there not too long ago with the materials engineer and showed him what I wanted done and directed him, and he should be out there hopefully early next week coring and doing some drilling for the materials testing so I can work on the design there. And that is currently where we're at, is getting all the information into the office now, so my design engineers can start work on that. I have 3 different engineers that are going to be assigned to it. One each taking one of the roads and dealing with that. And so currently we're pushing through. I'm hoping once I get all of the preliminary stuff in and all the field data in, we're going to push and try to get each road designed and ready to go in about 4 to 6 weeks. So that's the current situation, and I'd be happy to come back again and provide you an update at the next meeting.
Thank you, Sam. And thank you all for your patience, because as we're out there in the field and what they're doing, what he means by coring is they're actually going out to the existing sidewalks and roads and taking samples. So we need to make sure the material can be rehabilitated, and we're also trying to save money where we can. So determining the consistency of the road products that are in existence right now is really helpful in terms of, maintaining the budget and getting all that information so it goes directly into design. So we're in the early stages, but we do anticipate having these plans put together pretty quickly here, and that's the goal, to get it out and get it into construction. So thank you for your patience.
Yes.
This is Stephanie. I just want to thank Sam and Christine for working so diligently on this. My experience with paving projects is they take a very, very long time. And I just think, even to me, 4 to 6 weeks sounds like to be able to continue moving on with the project sounds really awesome. So just thank you for your work on it. And thank you for continuing to give updates to the CSC. I do think we were going to hold most questions to the end, but I do, in the interest, I'm not sure, Sam, if you're planning on staying for the whole meeting, and we might want to let you go after this update. So I just want to pause and see if anyone has any specific questions for Christine and Sam about the City of Arvin's paving projects. If not, you can certainly still put your questions in the chat, and I'm sure Christine can try her best, or else we can just follow up with Sam. And it sounds like we'll have Christine and Sam back at an upcoming meeting to continue to give updates on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to continue on with the presentation. And I'm going to stop at 2 CERT measures that I know are of really high priority to CSC members, which are kind of our tree type projects. The first being vegetative barriers, which we have in the CERP allocated $500,000. Progress to date is that I know CSC members recall just a few months ago, we did have Hyphy, who is the applicant for our vegetative barriers project. They came and reviewed. The CSC had several points of feedback, and after that meeting, where we landed is we wanted to schedule a subcommittee. So just as an update to you all, we've continued to meet with Hyphy several times, and we are working with them to respond to some of that feedback you all have, and they are still working on on coordinating partners, and they think that within the next few weeks they're putting together an updated presentation to refine their proposal. And so what we plan to do as a next step, again, is to have our vegetative barriers subcommittee meeting scheduled for June. So that's something for you all to keep an eye out on. And some of you might also be wondering, what about urban greening? You all might recall kind of the CSC, I remember a couple years ago now, had requested to actually take care of the work between urban greening and vegetative barriers separately. Because it is, they're 2 separate things. And sometimes when you work on it together, I think it's easy to mix up the 2. And so we have, as the CSC requested, prioritized work on the vegetative barrier measure. However, now that that vegetative barrier measure is kicking off, our team internally is beginning the process to work to open that urban greening proposal as well. It'll have a very similar process, and we'll kind of work with the CSC in the same way that we reviewed the RFP or request for proposal with the CSC in a subcommittee. So that's something that we'll begin to work on too, now that we're kind of making good progress on vegetative barriers. The next set of measures that I'm going to move us on to is to talk about our more measures that actually businesses can take advantage of or agencies. And so a few of those measures include our public fleet vehicles, which we are still actively working to identify partners, working with the city, working with other agencies to do outreach on this measure to find applicants. We also are continuing to make progress on our alternatives to agricultural burning incentive measure. I think we've talked about it before, but essentially, we've shared with the CSC that at the beginning of this year, agricultural burning has been phased out. And so these alternatives become even more important and this grant funding becomes important. So we're still making progress on this measure and expect to have more applicants in as the measure, as time progresses and as we continue outreach on this measure. And then we're also continuing to make progress on our agricultural equipment replacement measure as well. A measure that we've talked a lot about in the past is our heavy-duty truck replacement measure. While we are still continuing outreach on that measure, we have, as needed, and as the CSC has history in the past, sought opportunities to reallocate funds when needed to measures that are, high priority and in demand. And the CSC might even recall we did move just a few months ago some funding from this truck measure over to our residential lawn and garden measure. I'll touch really quickly on our truck replacement measure. In the SERP, we have currently now, after that the residential lawn and garden funding reallocation, we have $4.7 million allocated to this measure. We are continuing outreach to businesses that operate within the boundary. We're working with a really great partner called Kingsburg Truck Center, who has a lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge, and has a lot of great contacts across the whole valley, really. They serve the San Joaquin Valley and also other areas of the state. And they've been doing a lot of great work to reach out to fleets that could potentially be eligible and might want to apply to this funding. So we know this is a priority of the committee to, again, get emission reductions from replacing trucks. So we're still continuing outreach, but we have, as we've already experienced in this committee, worked on reallocating funds to in-demand measures when we've needed to. And I'm going to go over this slide here about also our residential measures. These are the measures that are more like just a resident could take advantage of to make some kind of replacement, say in their home. So a couple of those measures include our passenger vehicle repair program. We already had one event in the community, and we are planning another event in the fall. Similar to that, our residential lawn and garden measure, we just allocated over just a few months ago $300K to this measure. And we have about $268,000 remaining, and we are planning another event in the fall. And then a measure that's also going well that I'll plan to have a few more slides to actually share with you all the progress is our passenger vehicle replacement program. We have actually seen the majority of those funds be obligated now, and we have about $600K remaining to support this measure. And so I think just so I don't get through too many slides, I'm just going to pause really quickly and see if folks have questions about maybe the more general updates that I've given across all of our CERT measures. And then the rest of my slides are going to dive a little deep into our passenger vehicle replacement program and how we've seen progress in that measure.
Go ahead, Bianca.
I have a question in regards to the urban greening. I know that a couple of the schools, especially in the Arvin district, wanted to participate in the urban greening. In this case, would you need the application from each of the schools or from the district itself to see how many schools would want to get involved in the urban greening? I know that they've been in need, but because of budgets and everything, they haven't been able to do so. But it was brought up. I did brought it up to a couple of the principals, and they were very excited about it. But I wanted to see if you guys needed from the district or from each school individually.
This is Stephanie. That is a really great question. To answer that, I'll really quickly take a step back and remind everyone kind of the process that we'll undergo. It was very similar for vegetative barriers. Really exactly the same process where we released what we call a request for proposal or an RFP. And that basically is just seeking out an entity, some kind of group to take on and implement the work. And so when we release that RFP, it could be that multiple people apply, or it could be one group that applies that then later works with the school districts. We're open to seeing who applies we'll open it and then we are happy to kind of see how people apply and want to work with us with the funding. But again, it could be that we have multiple applicants, say, different schools, or it could be maybe that we have one group that wants to work with the schools and kind of work on their behalf. And they apply kind of for the whole pot and then work with all the schools. That's totally a possibility as well. And as we start to work with the CSC on that request for proposal, we'll work with you all on doing outreach as well to make sure that all the right groups in the community are aware of the RFP and can reach out to us with questions. We'll do an informational session so people can ask us questions about the RFP. We'll do all of that, similar to how we did with vegetative barriers.
Go ahead, Tim.
I had a question regarding the vehicle repair program. I wanted to know, is there a limit on how much each resident would get, or is it like a maximum, or is it like qualified repairs or just non-qualified repairs? Like, would it just repair the vehicle so it can pass my certification, or basically that's my question. Because I see it has a limited amount of funds available.
This is Stephanie. Yes, so it would be for emissions related repairs, and it is up to $850 per person.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
This is Liz. Just want to see if there are any other questions for Stephanie or the Air District about all of those SERP incentive measures that you've heard about, and except for the passenger vehicle replacement measure, which we're about to get to. And Tim, I see your hand is still up. Did you have another question? Okay. I'm not seeing anything, so, oh, yeah, go ahead, Mario.
Yeah, I want to know that program of that smog. You say it's like $800 to have that check for your smog.
This is Stephanie. It's up to $850 for vehicle, for emissions related repairs for a vehicle.
Okay, because I got a 2006 Odyssey, but they stole my converter out of it. And I took it to go have it checked, and they told me it would be like $2,000 just to put on my converter. And I don't know what is the state standard of the smog here, because we got the imitation converters, and what I noticed that a lot of them didn't want to take them like that. They won't pass smog.
This is Stephanie. Mario, we can have someone on our Valley Can team reach out to you to see if you would qualify.
Yeah, I'll appreciate that.
Oh, and you know what? Jose Marin with Valley Can, just dropped a number into the chat, and I'm going to read it aloud for everyone. This is their hotline number, 800-806-2004. Thanks, Jose.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And I see one more hand up from Gabriela. Go ahead. You're still muted, but I can see you. There we go.
Muy buenas tardes, soy
Good
José Ojeda.
afternoon. This is Jose Ojeda.
Mi pregunta
My question
es,
is
hace, hace,
um,
hace como unos 3 meses
maybe 3 months
se
ago,
abrió el programa
they
para
opened the
el smog
program for
aquí en
the
la ciudad de
smog
Arvin
here in Arvin,
y para
and
para
also
podía uno calificar. Entonces yo
maybe
fui
if you can qualify. So I
y
went
bueno, califiqué para
and I
$850
qualified for $850,
y otros compañeros
and
también fueron.
other colleagues also went.
Entonces en la plática que tuvimos con mis
So the
compañeros
conversation that we have with
que
our
calificaron para
colleagues that
$850
apply for the $850
tuvimos
is
una plática diciendo
that we had this conversation saying
qué
that,
bueno que tomaron este tema.
and good that you are
Muchos
talking this talking
del
about this
programa,
topic.
por
If
ejemplo,
somebody from the program, for example,
que administra el programa de
the
CSC,
administrator from your program,
tiene contacto
maybe they have a contact
o lleva un proceso
or they have a
con los
process
talleres que pusieron ahí en el
with
papelito.
the shops that they
Yo no soy
listed in the
mecánico,
paper, because I'm not a mechanic, but
los carritos
sometimes
pues les hago
the cars that I have, I
cosillas ahí,
just kind of fix some of the things or the reparations that they need, or the things that need to be repaired. And sometimes they're not as expensive. And I brought a car that needed 3 sensors changed, and with those 3 sensors and the smog check, they charged me $1,374. And I don't know how you call it. And these sensors, they weren't more than $70 each. So I don't know, maybe because it's through the program, I don't know if they're just altering or changing the prices, or I don't know, because for me, it was too much money to pay. And besides that, you were helping me 850, I paid the rest. I paid like 374 cash. So the rest of the money you cover for it. So I think it's too much money for the things that they did to the car. Other colleagues were charged 1,600, others 1,700. So the cost was really less. Or is it the value of what you're giving? So my question is, do you have some control of the things that they're doing? Maybe they can send the bill to you to see if they're charging what's fair?
This is Stephanie. Thank you so much for that question, Jose. I have some information, and if we can always follow up with you offline if this isn't, if you want more information. But generally, the retailers or the small shops that are contracted, it's important for us to go through that process to ensure that they kind of meet the requirements, they understand the program. So that's why that we have kind of a network of smog shops that we do have together for people to select and pick. But we do always recommend that people shop around and get different quotes. So I'm not sure if you did that process, and it sounds like you maybe went through the process, but I'll speak just generally overall that it's important for you all to shop around to make sure you're getting a good price that you feel is right. So I'm glad that it sounded like you didn't quite like the price and you maybe wanted to go with a different option, but that's definitely something we encourage in the program. Shop around, get a few different quotes so you can see maybe the difference in the pricing. But we don't necessarily, as an agency, we don't have control over the pricing, though, of what they charge. I will say if there's any concerns or questions that you have also about, a certain smog shop, you can send that information to our team and our team can follow up on that as well.
Lo que pasa, lo que
What
preguntó usted
happened
ahorita,
is that what you're asking, the point is that we don't have an option to compare prices because they tell you you have your appointment, you leave the car there, and they just give you an estimate, but the appointment take too long. The appointments take too long because they have a lot of work because of the program. So if you have the plates that they're almost due with the stickers and you have to do the smog check, there's a process and we don't have that much time to really search.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm actually, I know I see Jose with Valley Can responding in the chat. So I'm going to actually pass to Jose to see if there's anything else, Jose, you want to add here.
Voy a hacer el intento de contestar en español, ya
I'm
que yo
going to
hablo
try to
español.
answer in Spanish because I speak Spanish. What's your name? Maybe that he needs to go to
Está en
the
la
Spanish
pantalla
channel.
como Gabriela Ojeda. Lo que podemos hacer
Jose,
para usted.
this is Liz. I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you select the Spanish channel? That way they can hear you.
Oh, well, if he's getting a translating device, I'll just say it in English. How's that?
That works too. Thank you.
Okay, and what's the gentleman's name? I have him on the screen as Gabriela Ojeda, but I'd like to get his name.
Is Jose.
Jose, okay. Great, Jose. My name is Jose Marin. I'm part of the Valley Can organization that runs the smog repairs program. And if you'd like to put your name and phone number on a private message on the chat, I can look in our system and go through the details of all of the repairs that were done to your vehicle and share those with you in detail, as well as with the rest of this group. It's difficult to provide an answer, a specific answer, if we don't have the receipt of the repairs, but definitely we're glad to, I'd be happy to take it back to my team and share again the detailed repairs with you and the rest of this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Appreciate you following up, and thank you, Jose Ojeda, for your question. I am going to continue on with our presentation in the interest of time, and then at the end of the presentation, we're going to take more questions. So I'm going to transition us a little bit to, I'm going to transition us over to one of our other programs, also vehicle related, but our passenger vehicle replace program. Like I mentioned in the slide previous to this, the program has been open for just under a year now. We opened it about June. We started kicking off workshops around then. And what we're seeing is really through that time, we have seen the majority of funding being used in the community, which is a very, very great thing to have. And we've to date, and this number, even from the time that we put together this presentation the other day, probably has changed. But we have about 172 applications received to replace old polluting vehicles with either used or new hybrid or electric vehicles. And 97 residents so far have fully completed the transaction. So what that means is folks will, look into the program, they'll submit an application. After that, they'll receive, once they're approved, they'll go through and they have the opportunity to shop. They can do research, they can go to the dealership. So we have 172 folks that have, are either in some stage of review with their application or out there shopping, and 97 residents that have finished the process and they're driving around with a newer, cleaner vehicle. We have remaining around $600,000, which we estimate to be, it'll kind of change depending on what people pick for their vehicle, but that's enough for probably around 30 vehicles if they are going for the highest option, which is going to be $20,000 for a new battery electric vehicle. We did this set of slides the last time we did our kind of 6-month check-in on the program, but just wanted to bring some statistics to the committee about what folks are opting for when they're going through the program. Really, the majority of people are going for the plug-in hybrid option. We have about 55%, so really a little more than half of people going for a used plug-in hybrid, which does make sense. It gives people the flexibility of not being fully battery electric, and they're likely seeing a little bit lower prices than if they went with a newer model. We have about a quarter of folks going with a new plug-in hybrid, and about 20% of folks that are going with a battery electric vehicle, with 13% of those being new, 7% of those being used. I think definitely a really important consideration here to think about is thinking about what kind of impact that this has on the community. Where we are talking about moving these funds is from our truck replacement measure, which I'm sure as folks in the community are aware, trucks do have a big impact on, on emissions in the community. But given that the trucks measure is experiencing difficulty, we're having challenges, finding applicants, especially kind of in this with changes to kind of the regulations around trucks. We do see this as being a really good opportunity to find other measures that also still support emission reductions. So our estimate is that the replacement of about 60 older polluting vehicles would lead to about 0.56 tons of emission reductions. And just so to summarize again, we have this measure, the passenger vehicle replacement measure. We have in the SERP around 4 million allocated. An individual can get up to 20K, but it'll really depend on the type of vehicle that they're replacing and then also whether or not they're going for new or used. So far, the progress we're seeing again is 172 applications so far that we've seen. And what we are wanting to recommend to the CSC is to shift $1 million from our heavy duty truck measure to support additional vehicle replacements. And again, kind of as we've seen through all of the slides that I just showed, a lot of our measures are progressing really well. And we've really taken this opportunity to reallocate funds when we've seen a demand in a kind of a need, a priority of the committee. And we see that need in that measure. And so we are anticipating probably within the next month or so, we could run out of those funds just based on how we know the applications are coming in. And so even though we still have funds available in the program, we are recommending kind of a proactive reallocation that's going to ensure the continuity of the program, allowing it to stay open without pausing. And just an example for the community of why we're taking and Arvin Lamont proposing a more proactive or early approach is that we actually have done a funding reallocation with 2 of our other AB 617 communities. It's been a popular program really across our whole valley. And in Stockton, we had when we started to discuss funding reallocations, we were actually at a point where we pretty much had exhausted funds, and it led us to actually need to stop the program. We stopped taking applications, we stopped the workshops in the community. And so this kind of proactive early reallocation will allow us to seamlessly transition without needing to stop the program in the community. So I'm just going to actually pause here. I think an important aspect of this program is also talking about our really great partners, Valley Clean Air Now, that really are on the ground doing these monthly workshops. In Arvin Lamont, we actually normally see a month 2 workshops, one in Arvin and one in Lamont. And they are on the ground talking to folks, getting people, answering questions, helping folks apply, doing all sorts of social media and outreach. And so I'm actually going to pause really quickly to pass over to both Veronica and Jose to talk a little bit about how those outreach efforts are going in the community.
Hey, good evening. I'm Veronica Valencia with Valley Can. Precisely last night, we were actually in Lamont and we had a turnout of 48 attendees. So what it shows is that the Clean Car Community Clinics are still going strong. They're well attended. They're generating a lot of interest, a lot of phone calls, and they continue to bring in new applications, which is a clear sign that the outreach remains effective, that the need is still there, that it's still relevant. So last night, we were in Lamont at La Mina Caters, and we had 48 people who attended, and we collected 20 applications. So definitely a very strong turnout. And I don't know, Jose, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, thank you, Vero. Just in general for the group here, all of the efforts that we do to draw people to participate in this program, um, really pay off. All of our partners, our longstanding partners, even before we started these measures, are very responded. They understand the need of the community. They also understand that this group is doing what it needs to bring these benefits to the community. Of course, the mayor of the city of Arvin is heavily involved in and supports our events. She comes out, supervises our work. Our folks from the Field Institute, our friends from Comunidades Aliadas. So definitely a lot of boots on the ground work, and it's really paying off. So we look forward to continue to help folks with these benefits. And happy to answer any questions, both Beto and I.
Thank you both. This is Stephanie again. I have actually just one other slide that I'm going to share, folks, and then I'm going to pass it back to Harder and Company to take any questions, or I definitely hear any feedback that the CSC has about this. I know this is a familiar slide to you all. We've done this once before, but there we do, like I just mentioned, have an opportunity to reallocate funds based on kind of a need that we're seeing in the SERP. We have 4.7 million available in heavy duty trucks. And what we're proposing is to add $1 million to the passenger vehicle replacement measure that will support an additional 50 residents. And if folks are supportive of that, then that would just mean that you're indicating yes to us. And if you're not ready to move funding at this time, maybe you need a little more information, you have some questions, that'll mean that the passenger vehicle replacement program, they'll take as many applications as they can. And we obviously can come back to the committee if there are more questions or more information that's needed about this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will pass it back to Liz.
Yes, thank you. This is Liz. And so you all heard information about the passenger vehicle replacement measure and the success that it has had in the community. You also heard about some of the potential emissions reductions that would come along with the implementation of this measure. And so at this time, we are asking for feedback and any questions that you all have before we officially ask if there's any objections to moving forward with this decision tonight. And so before we take these questions, just want to explain the process for how we will build consensus. We've done this in the group before, but just as a reminder, for us to build consensus, we'll first make sure that your questions are answered and you've shared any comments or concerns. And then I will ask the group if anybody objects to moving forward with this funding reallocation. And so if one CSC member does say no, that they do object to this decision, then as Stephanie mentioned, we will not move those funds at this moment and can come back to that at another meeting. And we can also officially come to a vote rather than building consensus again at another meeting if we're not able to achieve consensus tonight. And so please let me know if anybody is confused by that process. And at this time, I am very happy to open it up for questions. And I do see a hand up from Jesus. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. First, I want to say I really appreciate the last slide. It makes it clear how our decision will create impact. The second, I wanted to, it was a question on the information that was shared. I wanted to know if we have an idea of why we're seeing more people going for plug-in hybrids as opposed to all electric. I don't know if like so there was a little questionnaire at the end just to get an understanding if there's something missing from the community, like charging stations, or it's just a better financial decision for them.
This is Stephanie. I maybe want to see if Veronica or you or Jose have anything you want to add there. I think I have my suspicions of that, but I know that there's many folks here that are actually on the ground talking to folks. So I was wondering, Veronica, if you have anything to add.
So one of the common reasons we get from like when we do surveys as far as why electric or why plug-in is depending the area that you're in, there may not be charging stations near you. So that is one big factor. And also if the customer happens to live in an apartment complex, that would be another reason why they wouldn't benefit from a fully electric car.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
May I add just one more comment, Mr. Jesus? And the process of selecting the type of vehicle, it's all up to the participant. We just off and on, depending on funding, and this funding is outside of this group here, we provide education on electric vehicles through our partner Charge Across Town. And lately, we have been bringing them along. So they do all of the spill on why it's important to do electric vehicles. But lastly, it is up to the participant to decide what kind of vehicle they're going to get. We don't obligate them to select an EV.
Thank you. And do we, because I think Arvin has more electric vehicles electrical charging stations than Lamont does. Are we seeing more people getting electric vehicles in Arvin than in Lamont, or do we have that statistics?
This is Stephanie. I don't have that direct breakdown in front of me, but I'm sure that's something that my team can follow up on. But I will also say related to this conversation, because we had it also a couple meetings ago about charging infrastructure. We do generally at the district have funding for charging infrastructures to get that installed in different public areas in the community. So it is something that our team is actively working on to find community partners to get involved and apply for the program so we can continue to see more chargers in the community.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, this is Akio Bastion. I'm just touching on that a little bit too. Yeah, we do have our charge up program here at the district. So if it's open to businesses, public agencies, as well as owners of multi property dwelling units. So or multi-unit dwelling units, if you have anybody out there in the community that you're aware of, they can reach out to us at the district as well and receive up to $50,000 in funding per site towards the purchase and installation of new EV chargers for these type of vehicles specifically too.
Thank you, Akio. And this is reminding me, I actually do think, Jesus, thank you so much, because I actually do think you've helped connect us already to someone that was interested in applying. And I know Akio chatted with them. So like Akio was mentioning, if there are people in the community you think would be interested in applying for this program, definitely reach out to us. Specifically, Akio has definitely all the answers related to the this program. So feel free to share information and we're happy to do the outreach.
Yeah, great question. And this is Liz. I see a couple more hands up, so we can go to Gabriela and Jose next.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Voy a hacer mi comentario con
I'm going to make
respecto
my comment in relation
a lo
to
que
to what you're wondering, why people are opting for like a hybrid or plug in vehicle and not electric one. We applied for the program and we were in that debate what was like the best option for us, and at least we chose the plug-in, but it was because there was a program that we were going to pay only the financing. That was one of the options, but we thought a lot about it because the obstacle number one is the load and how long it takes to charge the vehicle. Another thing is for long trips. They don't have a battery that can wait for like for a long time. If you're gonna go to San Francisco, you have to stop, and then it will take a long time to charge it again. You have to buy accessories to be able to use the Tesla chargers that are the ones that are a bit faster. But I think those are the main things why people are not choosing the electrical vehicles, because it's not the same for someone 15 minutes or 20 minutes to put the fuel and then just keep moving than waiting for a vehicle to charge. At least that's why we decided to do the pluggable vehicle. We haven't received the vehicle yet, so then I can tell you my experience. So how we're doing with the vehicle. And also in Arvin, we don't have a lot of charging stations. Fast charging? Oh yeah, we have two. One for low charging and another one for high charging. My husband is telling me, yeah, there are fast charging stations here in Arvin that we have two stations. One for fast charging and the other one is for like regular charging. That was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Liz. Just really appreciate you sharing your experience. I think it's definitely important for us to hear how this program is actually going for all of you folks in the community. So thank you for sharing that. And Christine, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was having technical difficulties earlier. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we do have a dual fast charger station in the Arvin Park and Ride that will fully charge an electric vehicle in about 30 minutes. And that's going at 150 kilowatts, and we can charge up to 2 cars at one time there. We also have level 2s that are doing about 25 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour for charge at the Arvin Park and Ride. And we do have 10 level 2 about the same rate of charging that are right behind Veterans Hall that are for public. So we do have the infrastructure here. And then I was just wondering whether, my opinion doesn't mean anything in this group in terms of, having a vote, but I was wondering how the CSC would feel about maybe raising up the income limits a little bit, because I know there's lots of folks in our community who are like making just a little bit more than the income limit here. And I'd like to see as many people in Arvin and Lamont be able to access this program. So like, even if we raise the income limit another $10,000, we would really get a lot more people into the plug-in and electric cars. So I just wanted to put that out there and just ask the CSC what they think about that, or whether that is possible, because we've had applicants to the regular program, but now it is slowing down, and I'd love to see lots of folks in this program. Thank you.
This is Stephanie. I quickly wanted to respond to that in terms of kind of how the program is running overall. And this is something that we've shared kind of with the CSC, I think every time that we've given really the update regarding kind of the guidelines and the requirements is overall the way that we have set up the guidelines and the requirements in terms of like the model year of the vehicle or the income requirements. Really what we're looking to do with those guidelines is target residents in the community that are most in need of the program. And then also target the vehicles that are kind of the dirtiest in the community. And overall, what we've kind of shared with community members is if we're seeing challenges with people meeting those requirements, like we're not getting any applicants, then definitely we are open to kind of revisiting those guidelines. But overall, as we've kind of shared in our update, and also as Veronica shared with her real experience of holding those clinics in the community, with being able to kind of support really, folks that really need the financial support, and with that model year of targeting really our oldest vehicles, we're still seeing a lot of participation in the program. So at this point, we're not looking to make any changes to those guidelines for the fact that we want to, again, make sure that we're targeting the folks that are most financially in need, and so that we're getting the dirtiest and oldest cars off the road. Again, if we see challenges with this, we'll definitely be sure to continue to bring updates to the CSC to share like, hey, maybe no one is participating at this point, and we can kind of, see and engage from then. But overall, what we're seeing is a lot of participation in the program still. And so we want to, again, make sure to target community members that need this program the most.
Thank you. This is Liz. Just want to invite folks to start thinking about whether you feel you have enough information at this point to make a decision, or if there are any remaining questions or concerns that you might have. I see one more hand up from Joanna, so we will take that, and then if maybe one or two other questions or comments after that before we see if we can come to consensus. And so, Joanna, please go ahead.
Buenas tardes. Yo nada más les quería compartir, yo sí ya tengo
Good
medio
afternoon.
año
I do want to share that I've been half a year with an electric vehicle, and I'm going to be honest. For a low-income people here at Arvin, it's not a good decision. That's my personal opinion, because we don't have the money to put a charger at home to do like fast charging. We have just a few in Arvin. They're always busy, and it always caused me an issue because someone was charging using my card, and it was like a huge problem for me. I had to call the company and all that. And then one time I said, okay, tomorrow I'm going to charge my car tomorrow morning. And then there was no power in Arvin for half a day, and I couldn't go to work because I couldn't charge my vehicle. To do it at home, it takes, wow, I think like a day. So I have a bad experience. Like if you don't have money to do fast charging, it takes too long to charge and to wait for your turn. I don't know if you know where the 58s. I was half a day there because I had to wait for my vehicle to charge, and I had to wait half a day to charge it. So for someone like me, I don't think it's a good idea. You will have to experience it. At the beginning, I was very excited and all of that. But then I said, okay, I'm going to save gas, but it's not exactly the same, the cost for gas and electricity. And if you have time and you don't work, just to do it for the environment, yes. But if you don't have much time and you have to work, then and if you're low income and probably you don't have the resource to have your own charger at home to do some fast charging, it's very difficult. I'm just telling you because this is my personal experience. And I had mentioned this to Amy and someone else, I don't remember who. The other person said that they will call me to see if they could get some like a resource or some funding for this type of charger because in Arvin, for someone to have that type of charger, that's difficult. We will have to save for like 2 or 3 years. That's my opinion. So you can take that into consideration. Anyone who is going to choose for the electrical vehicle, think twice. Hybrid, no. My sister opted for a hybrid and she's very happy. It helps us with her economy a lot, but just electrical vehicle, it's difficult. At least that's my opinion. But you just have to review that properly here at Arvin. I live at Arvin and we are low income, and that's why we are part of this program. Thank you.
This is Stephanie. Well, I just want to thank you for sharing your experience because I think everyone, like Liz is saying, has a different experience with this. So thank you for sharing your experiences with your electric vehicle. I also do want to make sure I'll have someone on my team follow up though. So you do have resources about funding opportunities if you were looking into getting a charger in your home. Even if it's not, the right time for you right now, I just want to make sure you have those resources so you can make that decision. So I'll have someone on our team follow up with you about that.
This is Liz. Thank you, Joanna and Stephanie. It's definitely important, as mentioned earlier, to hear your experiences. It's not just an opinion. It's definitely valuable in this group. So thank you, Joanna, for sharing how that is going for you. And I think we have time, maybe if there's one last question before we officially ask if there are any objections. It sounds like there are some differences in people's experiences and opinions about the program. And as mentioned earlier, if just one CSE member tonight does oppose this decision, then that means we will not move forward with transferring the funds today, but we can come back at a future meeting to talk about other ways that we can move these funds, or we can officially come to a vote, and then the majority would make the decision in that case. And so that's a little bit again about the process, and I'm just pausing to see if there's anything else. I see one comment in the chat from Jose. If you raise the limit, more people would participate. And so I think that's in response to an earlier point about potentially raising the income level. Okay, so I am not seeing any hands raised, and I don't see anything in the comments. So at this time, I will officially ask all CSE members if anybody objects to this decision tonight to move forward with shifting those funds. And so please raise your hand or put in the comments if you right now feel like you would say no, you are not ready to move forward with shifting those funds. And so I will pause for a moment and give folks time to think, maybe write up your comment in the chat or raise your hand. And if I don't see anything coming in, then that would mean that we do reach consensus tonight and that we do move forward with shifting those funds. So I will just give it another moment. And I see one hand up from Mario. Do you oppose this decision? Feel free to unmute.
Yeah. Right now, I feel that I have to get a better understanding where this money's going towards what program. And I would like to hear the community of Lamont, what they think, to have a real good, man, I hate this. I don't like to be like this, but
Mario, it sounds like you're saying you need more information, maybe about how folks in Lamont are experiencing the measure.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh, sorry, it's a little sunny right here.
I would love to see it in a different manner, but I have to make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, we hear you. And so the ask that we are posing to the group is if you feel ready to make this decision or not. And so I think I'm hearing from Mario that you do not feel ready to move forward. And I see Jesus Perez, go ahead.
Hi, Jesus Perez, Lamont resident. I feel ready to make a decision, and I would be in favor of that. So not opposed to it.
I just need a little bit more people to answer me like Mr. Pettis did, and we'll go forward. Yeah, I just need a little bit more people. Really, I need to know if the people are ready.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mario. This is Amy. So it sounds like we need more information from Mario is requesting that as a CSC member. Also seeing Jose in the chat saying that we're not ready as CSC members at this time. Also seeing that from Lorena as a CSC member, thinking that we need to wait some more time. And so given that this is more than, well, it's 3 people saying they need more time. At this time, we're going to move this to our next agenda item so that we can actually come to an official vote at the next meeting. So we will, Jose? Or Jesus, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I said perfect, that works. But was there any time restriction or time sensitivity as to a benefit of voting on this tonight as opposed to waiting to get more information for the next meeting?
Well, there's always time sensitivity, but in addition to that, per your charter, the request has always been to first attempt to arrive at consensus, and if not, come back with an official vote. So that we're following the process that you all recommended that we implement. So today really is about seeking consensus, and today we don't have consensus. So we will go to a vote at the next time. At this time, I'm going to let, sorry.
The definition of consensus, it would be what now in this group?
51% or more.
Is there a way of taking a poll, just to kind of, if there is some time sensitivity, so we can?
Let me pass it to Stephanie from the Air District to see what that time sensitivity is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesus. I can share. Overall, like I mentioned it during the slides, we probably it's hard for us to say because it will depend on how many applicants we get from the program. But once we take a conservative approach and we won't overspend into the funding. So once we have enough applications for our current funding, what that means is we shut down the program and we don't accept any more applications and we'll stop the workshops. So that kind of is the time sensitivity around it. If we reach that before the next meeting, the program will, we won't hold any more workshops until the CSC, has made a decision. We won't take any more applications. And, we haven't approached that yet. Again, we're taking a little bit of a proactive approach, but it's hard for us to know exactly when the rest of that funding is going to be spent. So that's why we were kind of approaching this today. I also want to take a moment because actually I think Mario asked a question of what we're making a decision on. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about the decision of what decision point we have before us tonight, which is reallocating funds from our heavy duty truck replacement measure and moving $1 million over to support our passenger vehicle replacement measure. So that would be the measure that we have to help folks in the community residents replace their 2006 older, polluting vehicle with a newer, cleaner plug-in hybrid or electric vehicle. So again, a yes would mean supporting additional residents to go through the program. And then a no would mean we would, if it's the case that we run out of funding, then we'd stop the program in the community. Something I would love to hear more about, because I think that this will help us kind of shape what information we bring, is I'd love to hear more for those folks that aren't ready. Is it because what information are you looking for, or do you just want more time to consider it and maybe talk to some other CSC members? I'm trying to get a sense of that, because if there's anything that you all would like to see from us, we're happy to prepare that. But I think I just kind of heard generally that folks want to wait. And so I just want to know if there's anything we can bring to help make the decision more clear to you, or if it's simply that you would like more time to think about it.
So really quick, if we take a proactive approach and we move over that $1 million today, or we have consensus to get that moving, we would essentially be able to safeguard that $1 million into that program and prevent it from being essentially stopped, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
This is Stephanie. That's generally the approach. It's hard to say, again, like I said, when the rest of the funding is going to get spent in the community. It really depends on who applies to it. But we were proposing a proactive approach to ensure that there's, if it is the case we run out of funding, that we are allowing for there to be a seamless transition and not needing to pause the program.
Awesome. Thank you. And the other thing that I think would help those that aren't ready to make a decision or weren't ready, because I think people are starting to get a little bit more familiar with this now, with what this means, is that if we move it today, right, to be proactive, and tomorrow, right, figuratively speaking, we want to move it back somewhere else, we can take that vote as well, correct?
This is Stephanie. I mean, I don't see why not, but I'd want to make sure that we were making intentional decisions about where we're, I think I get your point, Jesus, but I want to make sure that we're also intentionally moving funding where it makes sense.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I was asked, the only reason why I was not ready was because I didn't get too much information on what this money was to go to. I just want to make sure my community have the best of everything. And that's the only reason why, I didn't really, I'm doing my own investigation that I could go forward. That's all. I didn't want to, stop nothing. I just wanted to go forward.
No.
I'm sorry, Stephanie, if, on that part.
It's good for us to all feel comfortable with the decision we're going to make.
Yeah. No need to apologize, Mario. We are here to hear how all of this is landing for you all, and really this is your decision. I do see a few more hands, and I see just in the comment some folks are in favor of supporting the measure and others are in favor of voting. So definitely seems like we are not reaching consensus tonight, but would love to hear more from folks about exactly what questions you need answered before we can make this decision. And so I see a hand from Elvia, Juliet, Sabrina, Jesse, I think the Garcia family. Go ahead.
Nosotros estamos de acuerdo.
We are
Nosotros
agree.
estamos de acuerdo
We
a
are agree
que sí se haga, que se pasen los fondos
to move the
programa.
funding to the program. We are for. We are agree because we change our vehicle, and as my sister said, it's been very good for us. So we want for other families also to do as well as we did. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your opinion and your perspective on whether to move those funds. And I'm seeing more comments coming in the chat. And we can go to Bianca next.
I also agree in voting. I think it's a great program. I've been to a couple of them and I've seen a lot of community's interest in this program, especially because we're trying to fix our air quality, and part of it is to take these emissions cars that are emitting so many air contaminants in our air and replacing it for something cleaner. So I personally do agree in reallocating funding. We're not reallocating all the funding from the truck replacement as Stephanie mentioned. It's just part of it. So there's still funding out there so we could reallocate if needed to other programs. I think it's a very beneficial program, especially because as many of the CSEs have mentioned, have used it and are part of the program. So they're being used. So it's something that it's a positive outcome from the community, not something negative that will impact.
Thank you, Bianca. I'm definitely hearing that there's a diversity of opinions, and I'm hearing actually more support of moving the funds. Given the process that is in your charter and given the time that we are at 7 p.m., and I do see more hands up, and we really would love to hear from you all, but do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So it sounds like we have not reached consensus, even though we are hearing definitely a lot of people in favor of moving the funds. So while we did not reach a decision tonight, we will come back to this at the next CSC meeting. And we still do want to hear from all of you who have your hands raised and any other folks who have questions or comments. This is not your last chance to share those before the next CSC meeting. And I will share my screen quickly as I transition us to wrapping up the meeting. And I just want to share some of our next meeting dates, which will be, give me 1 second as I share my screen. Okay. So the best time I would say for you to all share your comments and questions and anything that has come up would be at the agenda setting meeting. That will be June 5th at 4 p.m. on Zoom. And we always use that time to hear from you about what topics you would like to prioritize. And it really does help the Air District prepare an agenda and presentations that are effectively answering your questions. And so really do encourage you all to come to that meeting and share any additional questions or thoughts that you have. If you are not able to make that meeting, we do encourage you to share via email or to call members of the Air District to share whatever has come up for you tonight, so that when we do come to an official vote, that folks feel ready to make this decision. And so just want to thank you all again. Let's see. Yes, just want to thank you all again for being very engaged in this process. It's really great to hear that you all are actually, participating in these measures and coming to these meetings and sharing your experience of how it's going for you. And I know we didn't get to our standing updates and we did not read the action items. So we can hold those and send them via email at the end of after tonight's meeting. And so you will definitely get those.
Hi, Liz. This is Laura. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. There is some shifting in the chat. Wondering if we just want to take that pulse there and see if we want to reach consensus on this end, because yeah, there's been some shift. I know at the beginning there were some hesitations, but seeing the additional context that the Air District provided, maybe we can do a quick temperature check before holding off to next meeting to take a formal vote.
Yeah. We can, well, thank you all for staying a little after the meeting. We can quickly see if folks would like to reach consensus, since we have had some shifting of opinions. And so I will ask the group one last time. Does anybody object to moving forward with this funding reallocation tonight? So we would be taking $1 million from the heavy duty trucks measure and putting that into the passenger vehicle replacement measure. And I see a couple hands up. Jesus, I'm going to ask us to hold because we haven't heard yet from Francisco. So Francisco, please go ahead.
Sí, buenas noches. Yo
Yes,
estoy
good
muy de
evening.
acuerdo que se
I
muevan los
agree on
los
moving the
fondos les sirven
funds.
a la comunidad,
If
yo
the
creo que se
funds
muevan para que la
are
comunidad los
useful for the
aproveche.
community, it's
Yo
better
no
to move
tengo
them so the community can take advantage of that.
asientos y para
I don't
comprarlos,
have an
bueno, estoy
old car to
de
change
acuerdo
it
que la
or
comunidad aproveche
replace
ese
it, but
dinero
I agree that the
quieren
community can use
sentarse
the
a ver
money,
las
because
ahí
why do
sentadas
you have that money
apoyando a la
just sitting there if the community is not taking advantage of it? Thank you.
Thank you. So it sounds like you are agreeing to move forward with the funding reallocation. And Mario, go ahead.
I feel that, yeah, let's go forward, because it sounds like people know that's what they want, and I'm 100% with that. Let's just go forward. You got the voters, yes, yeah, to move the money.
Okay. So it sounds like, Mario, you had initially opposed the reallocation, but you are now in favor of it. And I'm not hearing any other objections. I do just want to look in the chat quickly to see if anything has come in. And I will give it one more moment in case anybody does object. I don't want to rush folks. Okay. So I don't think anybody objects at this point. So I think that we have officially reached consensus and that the Air District will move forward with shifting those funds to the passenger vehicle replacement measure. And just want to thank you all again for engaging in this process and staying on a little later. We do recognize that these are time-sensitive measures, and you all want to make sure that the community is taking advantage of everything they can as soon as possible. And so thank you all for helping us reach this consensus. And I do see a hand from Michelle. I will call on you, but please do keep it brief as we wrap up.
Yes, no problem. I just wanted to point to the chat. And just to tell everybody verbally that e-bike event is happening tomorrow. So if you're trying to apply for one of those e-bikes, you'll need to be online and ready to apply prior to 6 p.m. Last time they told us there was a 1 hour window. I think this time there's a little more flexibility in that, but just be sure you're there and you're ready before 6 p.m. So that's it. Good luck.
Yay. This is Liz. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing that in the chat. And at this time, we are going to wrap up the meeting. And just as a reminder, the action items and the updates will be sent via email. And I am happy to invite, I see Bianca, your hand is raised. So please go ahead and share any closing remarks or just any final thoughts that you have tonight.
I wanted to see if the Air District could send a reminder tomorrow, maybe,
before the e-bikes. I know that there was some community interest from here and wanted to do it. So if it's possible, we could just get a reminder for them um, that maybe are missing that information, but it's a very good opportunity. It's really good. Whoever would like to apply, please do so. It does help our community. I know we're going to be heads on with a lot of the California residents, but I think it would benefit the community, especially through the AB 617 process. So if it's possible, please can we get a reminder? Thank you. And as a closeout, I do want to thank everybody for reaching consensus. I think it's something so beneficial having electrifying or hybrid vehicles. I've seen it firsthand myself, as in family members have applied in the program, and the transition from something very polluter to something that is going to benefit our community is really tremendously good. It does help our community, especially to reduce emissions. If we're not reducing emissions via trucks, we're reducing emissions via cars. So one way or another, there's some emissions reduction that are doing, and cleaning our air is our priority. So I do want to give kudos to the Air District to provide all the information that we need, especially the monitoring, because there's a big difference between the PM and the ozone. So at least we get to know that each thing does take a part in polluting our air and ways we could help out. So this is one of the part of the ways we were able to help and support the communities. Thank you.
This is Liz. Thank you so much, Bianca. And yes, the Air District, I saw a thumbs up. We'll send out that reminder. And I think you summed it up perfectly with your closing remarks. So thank you, Bianca. And just to officially wrap us up, I will invite Stephanie to share closing remarks.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, everyone. Again, I always appreciate the engagement. I know we're past time, so if you need to hop off, you feel free, but I very quickly wanted to share. I know a lot of you on this call are aware and have talked to Nancy already, but I just wanted to share because it's super time sensitive as well, that in this new proposed budget for this upcoming year, we are seeing that the governor's proposed budget is not going to have AB 617 funding for this upcoming year. While that it doesn't impact the work that we're doing here in Arvin, Lamont, but the work that we're doing here in Arvin, Lamont, excuse me, we do envision being able to continue this work that we've been doing with you and that you all have benefited from kind of in, other communities throughout the whole valley. And so we are working with all the CSCs across all of our AB 617 communities to highlight the importance and advocate for continued funding. So I know Nancy's reached out to a lot of people to get folks to sign on to a letter. If you haven't already and you would like to support this letter, drop it in the chat or feel free to give Nancy a call. It's pretty time sensitive because things are happening kind of now. So we are looking to wrap up this letter by tomorrow. So if you're interested, please reach out to either me or Nancy or drop it in the chat. But I know that she's already chatted with a lot of you and that a lot of you are already supportive of that. But I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anyone since we have a meeting. Thank you all so much for tonight. I appreciate everyone, and I loved hearing from so many of you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I see Nancy put her phone number in the chat, and really do encourage you all to reach out and definitely show your support in the way that Stephanie recommended. And with that, I am happy to close out our meeting. And again, just want to thank all of our CSC members and our agency partners who have contributed to tonight's meeting, and want to wish you all a very good night. We can open it up for our last public comment, and if you need to sign off, that is totally okay. And again, just wishing you a good night.
Buenas noches.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Buenas noches.
Buenas
Good
noches a
night.
todos. Gracias.
Good night, everyone.
Buenas noches.
Thank you.
Buenas
Good
noches.
night, everyone.
Buenas.
Thank you.
Buenas noches.
Buenas
Good night.
noches.
Good night.
Buenas noches, vecinos.
Good night, neighbors.
Good night, everyone.
I had a quick comment regarding translation. Can we remind people when they speak, they go into like the Spanish channel and they decide to speak English, that they need to do it in Spanish because Bianca's whole conversation was muted because I muted the mono speaking and I didn't hear nothing.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
think
thank you.
that's the third time in one meeting that's happened.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for letting us know. I think we weren't aware that that was happening, but that is very important. And so we will be sure to remind folks at the beginning of the meetings and possibly even throughout. And if that does happen again, do feel free to unmute or send us a message, because we do want to, in those cases, actually pause the meeting, so that we can make sure the interpretation is working for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for letting us know.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
all right, please. Yeah, I believe that when they speak I would like to comment that I wasn't able to hear the comment of the person who was talking about the experience with the electric car. We only heard when you told the person that they will communicate with him to see if they could help him with all the accessories. We didn't hear the comment that the person made. Yeah, I believe that they were not in the Spanish channel, and because people mute the original audio, they're not able to hear it.
Thank you for sharing, Gabriela. We're sorry that you weren't able to hear that, and we definitely will fix that in the future. Thank you for letting us know. Anything else coming up for folks? Okay. Good night, everybody, and thank you again. And we will definitely fix those interpretation challenges.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Tanya.
goodbye.
Thanks, Diana.
Thank you, Tanya and Diana.
Thank you.